Shruti, over to you.
Thank you, Aarti. Shall we begin?
Yes, please begin.
Hi, everyone. It's pleasure and a privilege to be hosting this session today. With the temperature soaring, I hope you're all very well, comfortably placed in your homes and are doing well. So today we have with us someone very special to me. Let me introduce her later, but I want to first begin with us introspecting on whether we've ever wanted to get back to work. How many of us have felt that emptiness syndrome when our kids have grown up and moved on? This quarantine has given us a chance to learn a lot, and it's been a it's great to introspect and retrospect during this period. So to address all our doubts and inspire us, I am more than happy to introduce you to Neha Bagaria, founder and CEO of Jobs for Her, a connecting portal that enables women to restart and rise in their careers after taking a break. A brief introduction on Neha. Neha has graduated from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. She then started her own educational institute, Paragon, in Mumbai. Marriage took her to Bangalore, where she joined her husband's business and worked in the field of HR, finance, and marketing strategy. Then came the maternity break. Neha herself took a 3.5-year break when she had her 2 children. During this personal journey, she came across the various difficulties a woman faces in order to rejoin the workforce. She got committed to the cause of enabling women to accelerate their careers and founded jobsforher.com on International Women's Day 2015. Besides the above credentials, like I mentioned, Neha has been my childhood friend, my BFF, a friend who's always led me to believe in myself when the going was tough. And I am so happy to have her with us today. Before we move on, I'd like to hear from our chairperson, Dr. Aarti Gupta, a true role model for all of us. She wears multiple caps. She's a loving wife, a doting mother, caring daughter, a dynamite of an entrepreneur, and living each role perfectly. Over to you, Aarti.
Thank you, Shruti. That was a really generous introduction. A very good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome. I am so happy to see so many of us join here today to reboot, restart, and rise in our careers. They say you're never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. And this is precisely the thought process that went behind when we were planning this event. In India, we women are closing the gender gap when it comes to education. There is no doubt that the brightest and the most intelligent ones out of schools and colleges are girls. However, as a country, we're amongst the lowest when it comes to workforce participation. I have often wondered why this is the case. And I know the obvious answer to this is that once we step into the marital phase of our lives, we take on the roles of being homemakers and nurturers. And there is no doubt that this is an extremely important and arduous role we all play, and it is self-fulfilling in itself. However, for some of us, this phase of life becomes a full stop instead of a temporary pause in pursuing our career dreams. The aim of today's webinar is to help those who wish to start working again to help reboot, restart, and unpause. I am confident that each one of us joined today is a woman who is motivated, beautiful, strong, deserving, empowered, prosperous, growing, learning, unstoppable, and inspired. Trust me, it's never too late to become what you might have been. With this, I warmly once again welcome Neha Bagaria and request you to begin this much awaited session. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you, Aarti, and thank you, Shruti. It's such a pleasure to be meeting all of you. I think one of the biggest silver linings of this whole pandemic has been that we can virtually connect with all parts of India, right? Shruti and I are both from Bombay. I am now in Bangalore. She's in Kanpur, and and geography doesn't matter anymore. So it's really lovely to connect with all of you. As everyone said, my name is Neha Bagaria, and I'm the founder and CEO of Jobs for Her. And today I would like to run you through a short presentation to kind of guide you through the whole career puzzle that is a woman's career. So allow me to share my screen. Aarti will have to give Jobs for Her access to share screen. And Jobs for Her also. Perfect. I'll just share screen. All right, I hope you can see my screen. So let's start with what Shruti very, graciously spoke about in my introduction. And this is how a typical introduction would sound, right? Whenever you hear anybody's introduction, they talk about the fact that I'm the founder and CEO of Jobs for Her. Previously, I was working at Kemwell, which is a biopharmaceutical manufacturing company. Before that, I was running my own educational center called Paragon, which was in Mumbai. It was to bring the advanced placement program back to India. And I graduated from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania with honors in finance and marketing. Now that's a pretty good introduction, and I'm always very privileged and honored to hear it. But frankly, it's just a good summary of my qualifications and overall achievements in my career. It's not really complete because it's only half of my story. It talks about my education and my work experience, but what about my life experience? Because after all, the skills that I picked up through my life experience are irreplaceable and invaluable, and certainly not something that I could have picked up from any job. For example, when I relocated to Bangalore from Mumbai, after the first M that changed my life trajectory, which was marriage. By the way, do you all know that 70% of women in India migrate to a new city after they get married? I'm wondering how many of you who are attending this have also moved to a new city when you all got married. So you can just hit raise hand on your screens, or you can put a thumbs up sign. Yeah, quite a few of us. Yeah, I know Shruti also moved to Kanpur. I think Aarti also moved. I had actually moved. So many women that I knew moved homes when they relocated. But do we ever think to realize the kind of skills that a relocation like that can teach us? I had to learn to adjust to a whole new family, a new city, a new culture. How difficult will it be to adjust to a new job or career in the future? I had to learn how to build relationships with a whole new set of family members, right? Mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, grandparents-in-law. How difficult do you think it will be to build relationships with colleagues and customers in the future? I had to set up a new home, set up new systems, new processes with an array of household staff. How difficult will it be to manage operations, HR, or handle change control in an office? Let's take the next big M moment in my life, motherhood. Now, as all of you who are mothers here know, and let's see a raise hands for all those who are mothers who are listening to this. Motherhood is definitely an experience that can fill you up with wonder, love, happiness. At the same time, a lot of confusion, frustration, fear, worry. And it's a completely life-changing experience. In 1 minute it fills you up, in the other it drains you out. But it definitely teaches you. It definitely gives you huge amount of skills. And I always like to say that a baby gave birth to a mother when my firstborn came into his life. And there was so much that I learned from that life experience. I learned patience, time management, perseverance, multitasking. Frankly, it gave me a whole different perspective on life. It started forcing me not to sweat on the small stuff. And all these skills are the ones that are proving invaluable as an entrepreneur today. when I am nurturing my startup the way I nurtured my 2 babies. And by the way, I'm not alone in realizing the importance of these skills. According to the World Economic Forum 2018 jobs report, in the future, human skills will be vital to success. And why is this? And I quote, some have argued that because machines have started to replace human jobs, it's important that humans work on the human skills in order to remain competitive. So if you see in this chart, proficiency in new technologies is only one part of the 2022 skills equation. What's gained prominence are human skills like creativity, originality and initiative, critical thinking, persuasion, negotiation, as well as attention to detail, resilience, flexibility, and complex problem solving. Emotional intelligence, leadership, social influence, as well as a service orientation are also seeing an upward trend in our future skills. Well, guess what can give you these trending life experience skills and prepare you for the work of the future? Yep, you guessed it. It's your life experience, not any work experience or education that you could have gotten. For example, if you want analytical thinking and innovation, get it from any woman who's constantly innovating in the kitchen. I have seen my mother-in-law, especially during this quarantine time, about how she innovates every day and makes sure that she uses up whatever there is in her refrigerator to cook up a fancy meal. You want active learning and learning strategies? Get it from a training spouse who's settling down her family into a new city every couple of years. You want creativity, originality, initiative? Get it from any new bride who has to weave her way into a new household. If you want complex problem solving, leadership, social influence, emotional intelligence, just get it from any mother who's dealing with babies or toddlers or preteens or teens, because none of those come with an instruction booklet. And yeah, negotiating with one of those can give you a master's in reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. And so at JobServe, we realize that the way women currently showcase their skills just doesn't do justice to the wide array of skills that we bring to the table. Worse, we actually make them feel like all this life experience that they bring to the table is extra baggage, like extra weight that is bearing them down. But frankly, it's like comparing a fast car to a fast plane only on the basis of their ground speed. On land, the plane feels really bulky. It feels like it requires much more runway. It can't be as agile as a car. But if you just let that plane unfold its wings and fly, that's when you will truly witness the power of that plane, the power of its wings, the power of its limitless flight. And which is why it makes me extremely happy to let you know that at Jobs for Her, we have decided to showcase women's wings. We don't just ask them on their profile and Jobs for Her, we don't just ask them to list out their work experience and their education. We also ask them to talk about their life experience and the skills that they picked up on their life experience. And that is why we say that women don't just have a profile. Women actually have a profile plus. This is a place where women can be proud of their roles as wives, as mothers, as caregivers, and showcase the future-proof skills that life has taught them. In fact, I love Shruti's introduction of Aarti too, where she listed out all her different roles that Aarti has in her life, because all those different roles is what will help her to be the best at the work that she does. So from today, my profile plus and my introduction can be Neha is an entrepreneur, a wife, a mother of two, and a woman who restarted her own career, thus founding Jobs for Her to enable women to accelerate their careers. I'd love to invite each one of you to start showcasing all your skills. Never ever feel the need to hide the fact that you're mothers or wives, and be proud of the life experience skills that you bring to the table. Because the truth is that we really need this change to happen in India. As Aarti spoke, the amount of women in the Indian workforce is extremely low. And one of the reasons for that is this chart over here. Out of 100 college grads in India today, 40 of them are women. And that's exactly what Aarti was talking about. That we have huge number of girls now who are graduating from our Indian colleges and universities and graduating with flying colors. But out of those 40 women, only 8 of them even pursue a career. The rest of them usually get married, and they're not, their in-laws are not fine with them working, or the reason they got educated, for their parents, it was to get a good husband, not a good job. So their career doesn't even take off. Out of the 8 who do pursue a career, 4 of them drop out in 3 years, which means that overall, you have only 10% of our educated, qualified, capable women in India who are pursuing long-term careers. So there are 20 million women in India who are looking at restarting their careers. And this is a treasure trove of talent that is lying in our country, which is completely untapped. Now, if you look at the top of the funnel, the women who do stay and they rise in their careers, okay, we start off with 30% women at the entry level, but that drops to 10% at the managerial level, and then only 1% at the leadership level. When JobSoha works with so many companies to explain to them why they need to have more women in their companies, we don't tell them that they need to do it for social reasons. We make them realize that companies who have higher number of women in the executive committees at the leadership levels have outperformed all male committees through all surveys and all polls conducted. Basically, better diversity equals better results. Frankly, I couldn't stop myself from sharing a forward that came around about how COVID-19 is everywhere, but countries with heads of state who are managing the crisis better seem to have something in common. Guess what? They're all women. Imagine a world where we didn't have these women leaders who didn't rise to the top. So what is happening? Why are women dropping off? Why are women not being able to rise to the top? At JobSoha, we feel that because it requires a management degree of a whole different type. And I, by the way, have had a management degree from Wharton, and they didn't teach us this. They didn't teach us how to manage these 4 things, which is what really comes as a big barrier to women's success. First, guilt management. There's a saying that says that show me a woman who's not guilty and I'll show you a man. Because every woman, no matter whether she's working or she's not working, whether she has kids or she doesn't have kids, she's guilty about something. She's not guilty about not spending enough time with her kids or with her in-laws or with her parents or with her work or with not exercising, something or the other. Second, time management. If we want to be able to handle all the different facets of our life, which are so important for us, and why should we have to choose? What we really need to become better at is how we manage our time. Because you know what? God has given us 24 hours in a day, and God has given us a great, beautiful life with a lot of luxuries. If we can figure out how to squeeze in different pockets of time for different activities, we will automatically feel less guilty. Third is actually biases management. The sad part is that even though we have so many women now who are so well educated and moving and starting their careers, we have huge number of biases that are in our workspaces, that are in our families, that are in our society, and that are in our own heads. In our workspaces, most of the time, bosses, colleagues will feel like, oh, these women are not really serious about their careers. We can't really give them very challenging roles and challenging assignments. In our families, people are like, but your primary responsibility has to be to take care of the kids and the household. Why do you need to work if your husband is earning enough? In our society, you're judged when you're not spending enough time with your kids. And then, of course, in our own heads, the biases that we have been brought up with, which tell us that this is a woman's job versus this is a man's job, that starts holding us back. And the fourth thing is peer management. Peer management actually is the most critical thing when it comes to rising in your career. In fact, on that note, I would love to read out to you one of my favorite quotes by Sheryl Sandberg. For those who don't know, Sheryl Sandberg is the CEO of Facebook, and she started this movement called Lean In. I would highly recommend to all of you to read her book. It is extraordinary. And if you're not a big reader, then you can even look up her TED Talk called Why the World Needs More Women Leaders. In her book, Sheryl says this about fear. Fear is at the root of so many of the barriers that women face. Fear of not being liked, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of drawing negative attention, fear of overreaching, fear of being judged, fear of failure, and what she calls the holy trinity of fear. The fear of being a bad mother, bad wife, or a bad daughter? I would love to see a show of hands by your raised hand or your thumbs up in terms of if any of you have felt any of these fears. Yep. Well, I have news for you. I think I have felt every one of these fears. And which is why this quote really stood out to me and made me realize that, oh my God, what? I'm not alone. I thought it was just me who felt all these fears and was holding myself back. And when that realization set in, that's what really prompted me to found Jobs for Her. And through piecing my own career back together, I realized what are the tricks that it takes for any woman, no matter what stage she is in her career, to be able to piece her own career together. And that's what I would really love to share with you. For me, the first piece of my career puzzle was inspiration. And yeah, many of you will recognize Shruti in that picture. She's definitely one of the women who is behind the inspiration of what got me to found Jobs for Her. So these are what we fondly call ourselves a BFF. We've been, friends since kindergarten and still remain friends. But it's just that our lives took us along very different paths after we finished our studies. So the girl on the top right, her name is Rashna, and she was a lawyer. She worked till the 9th month of her pregnancy, carrying twins. And then after twins were born, she got really busy in taking care of them and just never found the path back into the workforce. Her kids are now, I think, 12 years old, and it's been 12 years since she gave up her career. The one on the top left, of course, is Shruti. Shruti is a business graduate, and she relocated to Kanpur at a very, very young age and started up her own business in Kanpur. But, and I'm sure Shruti will agree to this, the levels that Shruti could have taken her entrepreneurship, she always felt like it stemmed, that move really stemmed that career. The one on the bottom left is Anisha. Anisha is actually a designer, a fashion designer. She was running an extremely successful label called Anisha J in Mumbai. Started off herself, was in all the big boutiques in Mumbai. And then after she got married to a Bombay boy, in fact. So we thought she was the luckiest. She gets to stay there. But after that, her husband's job took them to Singapore, Jakarta, New York, Mumbai again. It's been about 10 years, and they have relocated every 1.5 years. Very, very difficult to keep down a career when you're relocating like that. For me, this was the inspiration. This was that inspiration that I got, that if such talented, well-qualified, educated, ambitious and capable women are not being able to rise in their careers because of their life journeys, that is such a big colossal waste to our economy, and that is such a big colossal waste of their talents. And which is why Jobs for Her, when I launched Jobs for Her, the first thing that I did was also to hire a content writer. It was so that we can share stories of other women who have overcome all these obstacles and still managed to keep their career going. Also, it was for women to realize that they need to look deep inside and get inspired and understand what is the reason, what is their why of why they want to advance their career, why they want to do well in it. Because there will be tough times. I can guarantee you there'll be tough times. But it's that why that will keep you going. And that became the first piece of our career puzzle. Now, once I had decided to start Jobs for Her, I realized I had no idea how to do it. I myself was coming off a break of 3.5 years, and I was at the lowest low of my confidence. Which, by the way, for all of you who are on a break right now, you all must know this too. That there's one thing that every woman on a career break has in common is that her confidence is completely shot. So if you're feeling that, you're not alone. Everybody goes through it. Yeah. What really helped me was that I started reaching out to mentors. So I had a little black book that I used to carry that I literally, and I'm part of EO and YPO, know a lot of different entrepreneurs through those organizations. So I literally started calling them up and asking them for a 20-minute, 30-minute catch-up. And I used to go to their office and I used to ask them all the questions I had. And then I used to ask them to connect me with somebody else who they felt could help me in this journey. And it was these mentors who ended up becoming figure out the way forward. Frankly, my biggest mentor ended up becoming my younger brother. That guy who looks a lot like me on the left. He's my younger brother. He's 4 years younger than me. And all my life, I had mentored him. And now suddenly, when I was coming off this career break, I reached out to him for mentorship because he had founded, and was running his own successful tech startup, which many of you might know is called Dream 11. And he's the one who really explained to me why, even though I was a non-techie, I had to go down the tech route to solve this problem, because this problem was not of women, of only of 100 women. It was a problem of millions of women. The other two on the right are Dhruv Shenoy and Shubha Kulkarni. Both of them who I met through second and third connections, when I went and had all these chats with different possible mentors, and who become an integral part of JobServer from day one. Frankly, if it wasn't for Dhruv, I would have never been able to keep making JobServer so big, so big, so big. And if it wasn't for Shubha, I wouldn't have been able to keep my mental stature going along with the success of JobServer. And which is why at JobServer we realize that it's extremely important that women go out and seek out these mentors. What we need to realize is that mentorship is a two-way street. Yes, it's highly beneficial for mentees because you're getting that guidance, you're getting that inspiration, you're getting that advice from a mentor. But it also helps mentors a lot, because not only are they finding a way to give back, because I promise you, they also benefited from some mentors at some point of their journey, but it's keeping them relevant, it's keeping them ticking, and it's making them learn what is happening in that particular field. So we need to find a way to reach out to particular people and cultivate that relationship. This is not a one-off conversation that I'm talking about. This is a conversation I'm talking about meeting your mentor, talking to them at least once a month, and gaining that advice from them. So even at JobServe, we have 1,000+ mentors who every day somebody is doing an expert chat with our women to give them that advice and inspiration. Well, for me, one thing that my mentors definitely made me realize was that I was in desperate need to reskill myself. And frankly, no journey in advancing your career is complete without upskilling and reskilling. As I mentioned, I was a complete non-techie. Yeah, I am a business student. Frankly, I was so much of a non-techie that when I got back to work, I had bought myself a laptop by which I could plug in for the internet and for the printer, because I was just like, I don't want to rely on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all. Like, I definitely was one of those people who was very happy doing cash on delivery. Yeah. And here I was starting a tech startup. So what did I do? I just learned. And frankly, it was that tech that really helped, because all that learning was available at my fingertips. I did a lot of online courses and workshops on digital marketing. So I'm a marketing grad from Wharton. But the kind of marketing that was required for JobServer was completely different, because it all had to be digital. So I had to learn about Google Analytics. I had to learn about social media marketing. I had to learn about content marketing. And you know what? It wasn't rocket science. I had my foundation. My foundation was still very strong, and it doesn't go away. All I had to do was I had to upskill and reskill myself. I also read a lot of books like The Lean Startup, and I attended a lot of different workshops that were happening in the city. Luckily for me, Bangalore is a startup hub, and there were tons of workshops happening by Microsoft Ventures Accelerator, TiE Bangalore. And at that point, all I did was learn. And which is why at JobServer, we realized that the third piece of this puzzle is reskilling. Today, we have partnered with about 750+ reskilling partners across India, and that ranges from training for your interviews, writing your resume, to upskilling yourself in big data, artificial intelligence, Google Analytics, so that one, you are fully up to date and you know what you need for your career and your job, but two, it actually gives you a huge amount of confidence. When somebody uses the word like Google conversions, they're like, oh yeah, of course, I know what you're talking about. You don't feel like you're like a dinosaur, that you have no idea what's going on in today's day and age. So make some time for reskilling. For the ones who are currently working also, upskilling is critical. Yeah, because technologies are changing so fast. so much is constantly changing, no matter which functional area you're in, by the way, no matter which industry you're in. Huge amount of change is happening, and we have to make sure that we constantly keep the learning on. Learning cannot stop when we finish our college or school degree. And learning is available on your fingertips. Please make the most of it. All right, so I had the inspiration, I had strong mentors, and I had reskilled myself. The next thing I had to do was find those opportunities. So that picture on the left, by the way, is how we started JobServer. We were a group of 6 women, all, by the way, who were taking a break in their careers and were getting back to work. And we used to work out of Social, which is a resto bar on Church Street in Bangalore. So the upstairs part of Social, they converted into a co-working space. It was really cheap. So I was just like, sure, that sounds great. We just start from there. And we worked there for the first 6 months that I started. And the first thing that we did was start looking for opportunities for women who are on a break. This was 5 years ago, by the way. I launched JobServer on March 8th, 2015. And when we used to call up companies and speak to them, I can't tell you the number of companies who told us that we don't want to hire women, we don't want to hire women returnees, and we don't want to hire mothers. And frankly, we were for many companies, we realized there's no point convincing them. Okay, we told them that that's fine. We don't want you on our portal because we don't want our women to join you. But for many, we realized it was just a change in mindset. It was just a change in biases. Many times we feel very offended and insulted when we see people talking like that. But sometimes you got to realize that everybody comes with their own set of biases to the table, depending on their exposure and their upbringing. Frankly, many times we are biased too, and we need to sometimes help them get over those biases. So when we started JobServer, we started with, I think, 20 companies who were brave enough to raise their hand, and they said that we want to hire women returnees. Today, we have 7,000 plus companies across India who are on our portal. They are offering jobs from full-time to part-time to work from home to freelance. They even have special programs called returnee internships, which only women on a career break can apply. If you've not taken a career break, you can't even apply for it. And those companies pay us to be able to reach out to this talent pool, because what we convinced them was that this talent pool is great for your bottom line. This is a set of women who have the capabilities, who have the qualifications, who have the fire to prove themselves again, and who will join you at no notice period. And that is why in your career path also, there will be several opportunities that will come your way. If you're on a break or if you're currently working and there's another challenging assignment that has come your path. Many times women hold themselves back from grabbing these opportunities. There's a lot of studies that have shown that if there's an opportunity and a woman feels that she matches about 80% of the requirements for that opportunity, she will not feel that she is capable enough for taking that up. But if a man feels that he's about 60% there, he'll quickly raise his hand because he'll be like, okay, the rest of it, I'll just wing it, I'll just learn it. So many times we hold ourselves back because we feel that we're not good enough, we're not capable enough, because we feel this need to be perfect. We need to stop doing that, and we need to grab opportunities that come our way. Another quote of Sheryl Sandberg is that when you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask which seat, just grab it. All right. Now that we had identified opportunities for women also, over time we realized that there's also one very critical piece that is important in no matter whose journey that we're talking about, but specifically and especially when it comes to a woman's career journey. And that is support. In my case, frankly, the two biggest supporters in my life, and I'm sure Shruti knows this very deeply since she's heard me talk about it so much, has really been two of the men in my life, my father and my husband. My father actually brought up my brother and me in the exact same gender neutral way. He had the same expectations from us when it came to, for me, standing second, if I stood second in class, it was just this big deal at home because nothing, if it wasn't first place, it wasn't good enough. And he had the same expectations. He had the same rules for both of us. So we had the same deadlines, we got the same pocket money. If I wasn't allowed to sleep over, so wasn't he. And he had the same ambitions from both of us. Yeah. Even today, the same way that he drives my brother to think big and make his company bigger, the same way he drives me to constantly think about scaling. The second huge supporter in my life has definitely been my husband. And again, to quote Sheryl Sandberg, she says, and make your life partner your partner. And that's really what my husband is. When I had taken that break in my career for 3.5 years, I want to be very, very frank about the fact that when I was a full-time mother, by the way, that was my job. Yeah, it was completely all the kids' responsibilities, home responsibilities, family responsibilities, social responsibilities was all on my shoulders and my shoulders alone. And I never thought when I actually got back to work, I had actually given up. I didn't think that my husband will step up when it comes to taking care of any of these responsibilities. But that change happened. Once he realized that, hey, I was serious about my career, that I needed to put in these kind of hours into my work, that I needed to travel for work too, he stepped up when it came to the support that I required to make sure that it happened. And there was a very good forward I want to share with you all, which made me realize that I wasn't lucky to have a husband like that. My kids were lucky to have a father like that, because he wasn't helping me out. He was just being a father. He was just being a member of the home. And frankly, the more he got involved in this, the more he actually realized that this kind of completed his life experience also. I mean, there is so much enjoyment and so much joy from being able to spend that time with the kids, from being able to take care of the home. Why should we girls have all the fun too, right? I mean, you should involve the men folk too. So I feel that support has been extremely critical in making JobSaha what we could today. And here I just want to point out that through the JobSaha journey, we've also realized that in many cases, we don't find that support at home. And that's okay. There are a lot of different ways that support can be found. It can be through your friend. It can be through a colleague. It can be through your, frankly, actually, top on my list of people who I count on for support are my kids' best friends' mothers. Okay, because that's a great relationship. Both of us need each other to, entertain the kids, to keep them happy and busy. And that works out very well. So if there is a bun, there's a random bun that is announced, that those women end up becoming my big supporters. So it's extremely important that we find a way to find that support system and build that, and not feel shy in asking for support when we need it. And that brings me to the last puzzle piece that actually ties in all of this together. To find all these, okay, to find mentors, to find opportunities, to find skilling platforms, to find your supporters, you have to network. And networking, by the way, is not a bad word. For some reason, we feel like, oh, that woman, she networks a lot. We think of those women as socialites, or we think of them as only wanting to meet someone out of their own fiber. No. First of all, networking is an extremely symbiotic relationship, because you will never be able to get if you don't give. Secondly, women are actually amazing at networking, but the problem is that we end up networking only in our personal sphere. Okay, how many of us, for example, are still in touch with our school friends, our building friends, our college friends, our community friends, our parents' friends' kids? I mean, we are amazing at networking. The only thing we haven't learned is how to utilize that network for our professional career, how to do professional networking. And for that, we have to get out of the door. We have to use these different opportunities that come our way to network. Yeah. In fact, in today's, and I know a lot of you who are logged in on this are from Kanpur, and I know that there are less opportunities in Kanpur when it comes to networking. But guess what? The online world knows no boundaries. There is so much networking that can be done just from your fingertips. For example, social media. Social media is a great way to be able to build those connections, build that network of people who you can relate to, and people who will be able to help you in your career going forward. So before we close, I just want to share with you a little bit about the change that I saw in my own home. So my mom is an artist. That painting that you're seeing in the backdrop there, that's one of her paintings. She does these huge oil paintings of wildlife animals. And her entire life, she painted homes or our, homes of our family members. And she always said, that, oh, she will think about starting her career maybe when Neha goes to college, or when Harsh goes to college, or when Neha gets married, or when Harsh gets married, or when Neha has babies. It never happened. Yeah, there was always something else that was holding her back from starting her own career. And frankly, I mean, Job Saha obviously came out of me seeing my mom's journey. And when I started Job Saha and I started seeing the difference that it was making in the lives of those women who were starting their careers, when I saw the difference it made in my own life, in my own relationships, when I restarted my own career, I started hounding my mother. And in this webinar, Shruti knows what it's like to be hounded by me. But I like set up, reminders on her phone every 2 hours to start painting, because she's in Bombay, I'm in Bangalore, so I couldn't hound her in person. I enlisted the support of everybody she's close to start forcing her to, start painting as a career. And finally, one day she agreed. And on her 60th birthday, she had her first art show. It was at the Jahangir Art Gallery in Mumbai. She showcased 40 paintings and they were all sold out. In the next 2 years that followed, she's had art shows in Singapore, in Dubai, in Delhi, in Bangalore, and in Tao Art Gallery, like you name it. And she's on a roll. In fact, this morning when I was talking to her, she was telling me, she was thanking me again, because even through this quarantine, she's only painting, painting, painting. And this is her quote, which she actually brought us up with. And this is the quote that I want to leave you with. And it says, खुद को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. I'm from Bangalore, so I'm used to people not understanding Hindi, so I'm just going to translate it to English. That make yourself so strong that before writing your destiny, God asks you that what is it that you wish for. And that's really what I would like to end this presentation on that thought for each and every one of you to think that what is it that you wish for. Thank you so much for listening to me, and looking forward to the questions that you might have.
Thank you, Neha. Oh my God, I've always been motivated by you, and today it's again like taking it to another level. Every time a conversation is extremely inspiring. And so I think most of the women here, since we've all been excellent homemakers, have already got a master's degree, like you said. So there should be no stepping us or holding us back now. So I have a few questions for you, Neha. I'd like to begin with the first one. You mentioned the need to reinvent yourself. Jobs for Her provides a lot of skilling tools for reinventing. So can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, sure. So many times, this is actually a really good question, actually, because, the thing is, when we usually see a man's career, okay, we envision the career like this. Yeah, it's a vertical career graph that just keeps rising, rising, rising. But you see a woman's career graph, it'll be like, it's all over the place. Yeah. And that's okay. You've got to start realizing that that's okay. In fact, that is a strength. The fact that we have multifaceted talents, multifaceted skills, multifaceted interests, and we are constantly reinventing ourselves and looking at different areas and interests in different areas. Each one of these is adding on to our repertoire of skills for the long run. But many times we feel scared of this reinvention. Yeah. So, for example, we graduated. Oh, let me give my own example. I have graduated with a finance degree from Wharton, but and I did a summer internship at CSFB in New York, typical investment banking summer internship, and I didn't like it. And luckily for me, my parents were like, okay, fine, if you don't like that, do something else. I mean, just because you've studied finance doesn't mean you have to work in finance. So I got into the education field, where I brought the advanced placement program back to India. I love that. I never thought I'd stop doing that, and then I get married. Now, once I got married, I didn't want to start Paragon in Bangalore because my timings used to be evenings and weekends, and that didn't really go very well with a newly married life. So I moved into my husband's family business, which is in pharmaceuticals. So again, I had to reinvent myself. I had to relearn a completely new industry. Now I'd done that for 5 years and I loved it. Yeah, not the first year, but the years after that, I loved it. And I thought I'll do that for the rest of my life. And then boom, I take this break. After my break, I came back. I actually worked again at Kenwell for 1 year, which was a pharmaceutical company, and realized that I didn't like it anymore. I had changed as a person. That break had changed me. My interests had changed. So instead of being worried and fearful of change, I realized that, you know what, I'm looking at a time horizon of a 50-year career. What is a few years in a 50-year career? And then I reinvented myself and I got into the tech startup world. Today, I love this. Yeah, this is my third baby. JobServe is my third baby. But will I necessarily be doing this for the rest of my life? I don't know. Even at Jobs for Her, as a company, sometimes I say that I feel like I run a new company every quarter because we are constantly reinventing ourselves. That puzzle piece that you're seeing, each one of those puzzle pieces came organically, came after we discovered, after we experimented, after we tried different things. Which is why the most important thing for us as women, as careerists, as mothers, as individuals is we have to be open to constantly reinvent ourselves and not be fearful of it.
Yep. I guess that's very true because a lot of us, our expertise, we have our expertise in some field. And even for me, I think from, like a commerce background to open like a restaurant where I had no idea about food and cooking. So yes, you're right. Another question for you, Neha. What was the toughest part about setting up this business? What were the challenges that you faced?
There were lots. I think the four that I mentioned, the four management challenges that I mentioned, I definitely went through all of them. Yeah. So, when I talked about how I used to go to my different mentors and I used to ask them so many questions, one of the questions that I used to ask every mentor at the end of my conversation was that, is it possible to start a business when your top priority are your children? Yeah. The guilt, that guilt management that I was talking about, I was really racked by it. Frankly, for quite a few years after I started Jobs for Her even. Yeah. Because it was tough. It was tough to suddenly be working full time when you have little children, to not be there when they come home. And especially when you're surrounded by other women who are not working full time, whose full time work is their kids. So I think guilt was extremely difficult. When it came to biases management, also that was very difficult. I mean, for example, recently, a few months ago, I was at a party and a friend of ours, who's also a EO member, he asked me, "Wow, Neha, you managed to make JobServe so big. How do you do it while working part time?" And I was just like, have you ever asked my husband this question? Like, have you ever assumed that my husband works part-time? Like, why? Why would you assume that I work part-time? So I literally bit his head off and I feel a little bad about it because, like I said, that we have to be, more understanding of the biases people have. But these conversations definitely pinched. Yeah. Every time I attended a wedding in the family, I was always grilled about what time do you come home versus what time do the kids come home, and then how do they manage, and what all of that added on, all those biases added on to the guilt. I think these two, the interplay of these two was definitely the most challenging part of starting a company.
Yes, that's true because I think we all feel like you said, as women, we start to feel guilty so easily. And especially after being mothers, there is no end to feeling the guilt. Okay, another very relevant question with today's kids. Neha, how important do you think it is for women to role model the values they want to teach their kids?
Yeah, frankly, there's one quote which says that your kids will do half of what you say and they won't do half of what you say, but they will do 100% of what you do.
Right.
Yeah, and seriously, I mean, here on one side, we're telling them that you're going to work really hard, but then they're seeing that mom is not working very hard. Yeah.
Right.
because I think in our grandmother's case, it was different, by the way. They were working really hard. Even though they were not working in the office, like my grandmom had 6 kids. She had a huge extended family, you know. They didn't have any domestic help, domestic staff helping out with the household chores. They worked their butt off, you know, yeah. So if you're trying to teach them hard work, we need to role model that hard work ourselves. If you're trying to teach them how to deal with failure, I think that's another thing also that work really teaches you. Yeah. When you actually put yourself out there, you're frankly putting yourself up for failure too. And it's important that we actually come back and we share that with our kids and make them realize that, yeah, some days are good, but a lot of days are tough. A lot of days are bad. And the third extremely important role modeling is really gender bias. Yeah, when my older one, you know, I had taken a break for 3.5 years, right? So I remember when my older one started school at the age of 3, you know, I was trying to convince him that, you know, Yuvi, Papa loves office and Yuvi loves school. And he was like, oh, and Mama loves home. And that was gender bias. And I didn't know what to say to that because that's what he saw. Versus when my second born started school, by then I was already working. I was working full time. And, you know, I told him that, Dave, tomorrow is Monday, which means tomorrow you and Dave are going to go to school. And he said, oh, and Mama and Papa are going to go to the office. Wow. And I was like, yes, that's what I wanted them to learn. And all these, they will learn when you actually role model it versus when you tell them that this is what's right and this is what's wrong.
That's true. You have to actually lead by doing it yourself. Okay, another question, Neha. You've grown from 6 people to 60 people in 5 years. How do you make sure that your core team has the same passion that you have for your company? You've got a very, very, you know, enterprising team, I believe. So how does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, frankly, if any of you meet the JobsAher team, you will, you know, love meeting them because it's a band of really like feisty, spirited women who, by the way, all went through their own share of life experiences when it comes to, you know, this whole career graph that I'm talking about. And I think the reason why we've been able to, like, I mean, we've scaled from 6 to 60 in terms of a team size, but we scaled from 0 to about 2 million women on the platform. Yeah. And the reason why we've been able to manage to achieve this kind of scale is because the one thing that really scales is the culture of an organization. Yeah. We have really ensured that there's a strong fitment in terms of the vision alignment when somebody is coming in. Yeah, so we don't only look for alignment with the skills that we need, but we also look for an alignment in terms of, is this person aligned to the vision that JobsAher is trying to reach? And that has made all the difference. Yeah, in fact, I'm very happy to share with you that that picture that you saw of my starting team, all those women are still part of JobsAher 5 years later. And even during these tough times, it's been what, 2.5 months that everybody's been on lockdown and they're working from home. You have to see how hard each and every one of them is working because the culture has been such. Even though they are, you know, 85% of my team are women, you know, who have all these multiple responsibilities, they're figuring it all out. And my productivity of the office has not dipped at all because the culture has scaled in JobsAher.
Yes, so I think like with a very strong leader, you have a very strong team. Also, Neha, so what do you think would be the scene for JobsAher post-COVID?
Actually, you know, so there are a lot of reports which have been coming out about how the COVID crisis has impacted women negatively. Yeah, just because, like what I said, that women do have multiple responsibilities, and when they are working from home, you know, it's gotten exacerbated because everybody expects them to now do everything, right? So work kind of takes a sidestep. But of course, at JobsAher, we always love to take the contrarian view, and we disagree. We very much disagree when it comes to the fact that the COVID crisis will impact women negatively. One, if you actually study all the past crises that have happened, right, like world wars, etc., the women participation in the workforce actually grew, increased after a crisis. And the reason for that is because I think a situation like this makes women realize the importance of having a double income in the family. If a family is reliant and dependent on only one breadwinner, and that breadwinner loses his career or his job, it puts the entire family at risk. Yeah. So it makes women realize that this is extremely important for us also to be equal breadwinners in the family and contribute to the finances in the family. Now, once women realize that and they start focusing on their careers and growing their careers, automatically you will see families rallying to support them, because at the end of the day, it's plain economics. Yeah, if you are bringing in enough dough onto the table, the family will ensure that they will give you the support that is required to get that dough on the table, because it is so badly needed. Yeah, so families will become more supportive and women will be able to get even better in their careers. Third big trend that is happening is that companies are suddenly realizing that, hey, this remote working, this flexible working, work from home actually works, and it helps you save huge amount of costs from a company point of view, because now you don't need to have an office space for every person who's on your roles, which means that now they're suddenly hiving off certain roles that can be permanently done from home. And all those women who were looking for work from home roles will now have many more opportunities open up for them. So we're actually seeing that the post-COVID world will be a better world for women, but only if they step up to grab the opportunities coming their way.
That's right. I think it's a win-win situation for us as well as companies now. So we have to just take the first step. Basically, this is the right time.
Yes, this is the right time.
Right time. Okay, to begin. Neha, also, what parenting tips do you have for all the mothers here on how to bring up their daughters?
Well, I think Shruti. So first of all, I have to say that I have two boys. So stop rubbing it in. She knows that. But secondly, what I would like to say is, maybe the reason for that is because I think that in our generation, what's going to be much more important is how we bring up our sons and not so much how we bring up our daughters. I think our previous generation got that. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you see how they brought up girls in the last generation was very different from how our mothers were brought up. We were as well educated. We were as well exposed. We were, as well ambitious. But I feel like we forgot to teach our boys about gender equality also. Yeah, so our boys didn't really see their mothers working very hard, so they didn't expect their wives to work as hard. Our boys were never ever involved in any sort of household chores, so they thought cooking and cleaning and taking care of the house are all a woman's job. I feel like our boys saw their father being the head of the household and taking all the important decisions, and they started thinking that that's what they are also supposed to do. So I feel like the way we bring up our boys has to change. And again, it's in the small things that we do, right? When we tell our boys to stop crying like a girl, when we tell our boys that that why do you want to wear pink? That's a girl's color. Or when we tell our boys that no, you don't need to enter the kitchen, it's not your space. The way we bring up our boys really has to change.
True. I think we need to start young with these little ones. We need to start young with these boys so they become better husbands later.
Actually, on that, I have to share with you a personal anecdote. One day when my second one, Dave, he was really young, okay? And, I was telling them how that they have to, like, I have to go to work on time and I have to, work all day and all, because the way their teachers will not like it, even in JobServe, my bosses won't like it. So then one day, he came to me and he was like, "Mom, but who's the boss at JobServe?" So I kind of like, oh shit, he got me and I was like, okay, I'm the boss at JobServe. He's like, "You are the boss at JobServe?" So I said, "Yeah." He said, "But girls can be bosses."
Yeah, that
was my son. Yeah, I mean, he also thought that girls cannot be bosses. And I was shocked, of course, but look at the gender bias that seeps in so early. And yeah, he soon very quickly had to find out that yes, girls can be bosses.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of work we need to do with the sons as well. So I think, Neha, looking at the time, it's we need to start, taking up questions from some of our flow members. They're eagerly waiting to connect with you also. So I'd like to begin with the first member. We have Kriti Shroff with us. Kriti, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hi, Neha. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for the amazing work that you're doing. The whole talk was so inspirational and motivational. I'm a counselor, and I usually get questions from a lot of women in the city. Kanpur being a city which is a tier 2 city and does not have a lot of work opportunities for women here, um, either in terms of work or reskilling themselves or upskilling themselves. And I understand that Jobs for Her has most of its platform established in the tier 1 cities, which is Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, both in terms of finding work opportunities or getting themselves upskilled or reskilled. What kind of opportunities do you think women in Kanpur could seek in terms of remote working options? And especially, like you mentioned, under the COVID situation, a lot of companies would be looking at hiring women from a remote working opportunity. So how can women here utilize the opportunities and the potential and get back to work?
Okay, that's a brilliant question, and actually that's something that I should have said in when Shruti asked me about the post-COVID world. Yeah, and I feel like the post-COVID world will dramatically change the lives of all those who are staying, say, in tier 2 cities where you don't have access to as many opportunities as the tier 1 cities do. So, for example, and you're completely right in thinking that job server is predominantly in the big cities. If you see our member pool, it is mainly Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad. Yeah, but we already over the last 5 years, we had a lot of women from tier 2 cities also coming on board. The only problem was, like you rightfully mentioned, there were very less job opportunities in tier 2 cities. Yeah, and that was one of our biggest challenges. Okay, now if you look at the post-COVID world, Jobs for Her itself has completely gone virtual. Okay, so this September, every September we host a huge career fair for women in Bangalore, and we get a lot of women who fly down for it. In fact, the first time that we hosted Restart Her in Bangalore, I got Shruti to fly down also, to just like come as for some support, like a friendly face in the audience. And we've been doing that ever since every year. And we've not been able to take it to different cities because it's a huge effort that goes into doing these physical events in other cities. This year, for the first time, and that, by the way, is attended by 3,000 plus women and 50 companies, and it has a huge works here. This time, for the first time, that event is going to be done fully virtually. So all you women sitting in Kanpur also are going to be able to log on virtually, interact with the companies, by the way, virtually, get interviewed, chat with them, attend the conference. Everything that we would have offered to the Bangalore audience is now going to be across India. Yeah. Similarly, all our hiring drives that we used to do, they've all gone virtual. And most of the companies are now, if you see on our platform on the job section, we have a location, yeah, that like where that job is available. Many more companies are starting to put any as the job location, which means you can be anywhere and apply for that job, which is brilliant. I myself have told my team of this small team that, hey, look for freelancers because, for example, tech talent in Bangalore is bloody expensive. Yeah, especially for a startup like me who's bootstrapped compared to all the funded startups who pay like an arm and a leg for engineers, for software engineers. I've told my team, look now for talent that is across India. Yeah, who can join us remotely because I'll be able to reduce my cost of hiring so much. I'm not the only company thinking like that. So, and also all your reskilling and upskilling opportunities, it's all online now. So I think this is going to really bridge the divide between your tier 1 and tier 2 cities. Because if you have the skills and the qualifications, if you upskilled yourself, nothing can stop you now. Yeah. So if you please go online, what you do need to do is you need to be constant. opportunities come, network, build your social media presence, and upskill. If there's one takeaway that I want you to take from here is find a way to upskill yourselves in the latest trends and technologies in whichever field you're interested in.
Now we have Preeti. Preeti is an artist herself, and she's relocated to Kanpur from Kolkata.
Hi, Neha.
Hi, Preeti.
Yeah, it was really wonderful to hear you. It was actually empowering. You know, your storytelling was really empowering, Neha. I think it touches every woman. You know, we all felt our own story retold. You know, when you're telling about yourself and others, and especially as I'm a painter, when you were telling about your mother, I could really, connect with her. I already had an solo exhibition at Calcutta. So, when you were telling about fears, guilt, everything, we all could really connect with you. So, thank you so much. And I would really want to ask you this, Neha, that you told us about, upskilling, learning, I can understand all that. Now, what would be your one advice or mantra for the aspiring entrepreneurs?
Oh, only one.
We heard a lot, but no, you can give us 5 also.
I think I'll tell you from my point of view, okay, which I think women entrepreneurs really hold ourselves back. So I see the difference in my brother's journey as an entrepreneur versus my journey as an entrepreneur. And I'm constantly having to push myself, fight with myself to think big. Yeah, I'm constantly fearful about making this too big. I sometimes tell people that if when I was starting Jobs for Her, if anybody had told me it would have become so big in 5 years, I think I wouldn't have started it. Because I would have actually been scared. Even today, I'm forcing myself to think global, for example. Yeah, that why is it that I feel that this is only an India problem? This is a problem all over the world. But there's always this nagging fear and doubt in my head. Yeah, that am I overreaching? That fear that Cheryl Sandberg talked about. Am I overreaching? And I feel like we really need to let loose and think big as women entrepreneurs. We don't do that enough.
Think big. Okay. We have Mriganki Gupta with us. Mriganki, would you like to ask your question?
Sorry, can you ask Akansha to ask the question? She's unmuted.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So we have also, Akansha Shrimal, a very talented young member. Akansha.
Yeah. Hello. Hi, Shruti. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Akansha.
Hi, Neha. I hope I'm audible right now.
Yeah. Go ahead, Akansha. She's been having some network issues.
Network issues with her. Yeah.
Why don't you take Ritu's question, Shruti?
Okay. Ritu, can we have you with your question, please? Ritu, can you unmute Ritu, please? Aarti?
Yeah, I have.
Ritu Sibal.
By the way, while we're waiting, I want to do a shout out. I want to do a shout out to Sonal Jakodia. And I want to do the shout out because it is so pertinent to the previous question you all had. This is such an amazing coincidence. So one of the first companies on Jobs for Her to really work closely with us and help us build up has been Accenture. And Sonal has been on my client side, on my company side, working for Accenture, sitting in Kanpur, by the way.
Oh.
Yes. So if you all want to learn about how, there are no boundaries when it comes to grabbing opportunities, Sonal would be a great example of that.
Oh, great.
She's on this chat.
That'll be lovely.
We can ask Reva the next question.
Reva, can you please ask your question? Hi, Reva. Reva, you can't be heard. You're not audible, Reva.
Hi, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, Neha. It was very inspiring listening to you. I have been homebound for the last 9 years and I've got 3 kids of my own. So it was like truly very inspiring to, take forward the working. Like I used to be a CA. I used to be a CA, chartered accountant. So now I'd like to, do something on my own because you have inspired me a lot. What I wanted to ask you was what has been the most satisfying moment in your career?
Wow, great question. By the way, really, if you've been a CA and you're a mother of 3, okay, I don't think you need anything else on your resume. Frankly, I think the most satisfying in my career is it doesn't like every time that I meet a woman or we hear about her from a woman who's gotten back to work and how it changed her life and it changed the life of her family. I mean, there's really no better moment for us than that. Many times, like we don't even know. We find out like 6 months later, that person has been working there for the last 6 months, and then we find out later on. And when they just share with us their journeys of how much more confident they feel now and how much more their family respects them now, etc. That for me is really the most satisfying moment of my career. And I'm hoping that will continue happening.
We hope that too. Thank you.
Next we have Ritu Sibal.
Hi, can you hear me?
Very soft, Ritu.
Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Better, yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
Is it better? Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Neha. It was really, really interesting and inspiring to know your journey of success. I could really relate to a lot of things what you said today. So my question for you is that at what age do you find women want to re-enter their career, and is there a right time for them to restart?
No, there is absolutely no right time or wrong time. Okay, we've seen women get back to work, say 6 months after the baby was born, like say they just took a maternity leave and they came back. We've also seen enough women who had a break for 15 years, and then once they were 45, they got back to work. I give you the example of my own mom, and she was 60. She started her work. There was a really good forward which talked about how we all live in our own time zones. Yeah.
Right.
So, for example, India is in its own time zone, America is in its own time zone, Europe is on its own time zone. But in India, if we are eating dinner, and in America they're still eating breakfast, doesn't mean that America is slow. Yeah, and doesn't mean that it will not be able to catch up. So my brother's time zone is very different from my time zone, is very different from my husband's time zone, is very different from say another is from Shruti's time zone or other friend's time zone. You got to work in your own time zone at the time that it feels right for you in terms of your support system, your opportunities, your mindset. That's the right time to start, and there is no bad time to start working, no matter how old you are.
Cool. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Neha. I mean, there are a number of other questions, but I believe Neha has to leave soon because she is in Insta Live. But you all can connect with her. She's on Instagram. You can connect with her on Jobs for Us. Go it. This has been such an inspiring talk, and this topic is so close to my heart. And I'm so glad that you put out all those points so beautifully today. It was amazing. This would be the one of the closest programs I will do throughout the year, because women getting back to work or women working is something which I'm so passionate about, and you've just summed it up so beautifully. We have some other questions, but we'll just send them to you privately in case you would like to answer them later. I'm sorry, members, we would love to take everyone's questions, but Neha has to go. So over to you, Shruti.
Yeah, so we'd like to invite our chairperson, Dr. Aarti, to give the green certificate to Neha. Neha, we plant a tree, we plant a tree in your name. This is a flow protocol, so we do not give a gift, but a tree in the Sundarbans is planted in your name.
That's the perfect gift that you could possibly give. Thank you for this.
And Neha, you basically can track this tree. There's a little ID number down and you can see how it grows, like, everything. So this is our little way of saying thank you to you for helping all our members reboot, restart, and rising in their career, or at least just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we also have a senior vice chair, Kanika Vaid, now to give out the vote of thanks.
There's some little problem in like muting and unmuting members today. Sorry about this. Kanika?
You have to unmute me.
Yes, you are unmuted, Kanika.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Neha, when one door closes, another opens. But in this there is a large hallway in between. Today, actually, Neha, we felt that you are the bridge between this hallway. My deepest gratitude to you for joining us and stirring those pent-up emotions within each one of us. I'm sure all of us today want to reach to our dreams. A big thank you to Dr. Aarti Gupta, our chapter chair, for organizing such motivational and powerful event for us. Heartfelt thanks to Shruti for organizing such a beautiful event which will help us restart and reboot our thoughts. Thank you our annual sponsors, Balenciaga Socks, Lohia Corp, and Art Denox. Tomorrow we have a session for college students with Neha to address the challenges they face in their career paths, which is shared by Anjali Agarwal. On behalf of Flow Kanpur chapter, I would like to thank our dear members who connected us to the institutions: Varsha Singhania, Ritu Gupta, Shefali Raj, Archana Khetan, Ruby Chawla, and Ananta Swaroop. Thank you so much, dear friends. Thank you for the media for always being there and supporting us. And lastly, would like to thank all our energetic members who came forward to attend Neha. And I'm sure each one of us are going with this thought, Neha, khudi ko kar buland itna, ki khuda hum par.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Goodbye. Stay safe.
Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel in case any of your friends have missed out today's event. The link will be available.
Thanks, Aarti.